Fatherhood. It matters a lot. I know we're supposed to be in this day and age where the almighty woman does it all, and the poor, stupid oaf of a man can barely tie his shoes without Saint Woman helping him. But no, men matter. Fatherhood is really, really, really important. And Alec Lace is an author called First Class Fatherhood, but he also has a podcast, which I've been on, and it's outstanding, called First Class Fatherhood. Alec, before we get into fatherhood and men and society and things like that, let's get into you really quickly. Give us your bio. Where'd you come from? Who are you?
Yeah, I'm a father of four, Jesse, and thanks for having me on the show here. I'm a father of four, married for 18 years. I'm a railroad mechanic. I've been doing that for 23 years. I'm also a recovering alcoholic and addict and gambling maniac. And part of my story goes from years ago, I got a lifetime ban from Giant Stadium. Fast forward, I was invited by the NFL to come to the Super Bowl the last 5 years to interview the players about fatherhood before the big game. So that's the kind of turnaround this has been. And I started this show, First Class Fatherhood, back in 2018, just because so many young men have this warped idea of what it means to get married, start a family. And I drive a lot of Uber part-time on the side as a side hustle. And all the young guys, when I would tell them I have 4 kids, they looked at me like I have 4 heads. And I would tell them, hey, listen, this isn't the end of the world when you become a father. Like, they had this fear of like, oh, I'll never have kids. And so I wanted to turn that mindset around. It felt like I should put a recording on tape for all these young guys. And that's why I kind of launched a podcast. And I've had some success with it. And I've been blessed to have over 700 dads, yourself included, on the show, just to spread the message about becoming a father, starting a family, and it being the greatest fulfillment you're going to get out of life.
Alec, merge these two worlds for me, because I struggle with this. I'm a dad. You and I have talked about this on your show before. I love being a dad. You love being a dad. It's like my favorite thing in the world. It's the best. And yet, as you just mentioned, so much of society is scared of it, or they act like it's some kind of burden, or man, it sucks, when it's the best thing ever. How's that possible? How could the best thing ever be looked down upon by so much of our society?
Yeah, it's almost like fatherhood's become the best kept secret because our society has destroyed manhood. It's destroyed men. There's an attack on men. There's an attack on masculinity, and it's been coming for a long time now. So when men don't value themselves, don't see their value, they don't look for things like this. And becoming a father is really when your life actually begins. It's the greatest sense of maturity you're going to get. It gives a drive in you. People are afraid of, kids cost too much money. But kids become like this driving force in you to start creating more money, creating more wealth, creating more opportunity like nothing else does on this planet. But our society and our culture has been just trying to diminish men and emasculate them into thinking that they're worthless and they bring no value to society. And that mindset's got to shift. And that's why when I bring these guys on, influencers are all over the internet. Social media is a powerful tool. We need these guys that are known for all these other things. Like I bring on the show, Super Bowl MVPs, Navy SEALs, Academy Award winners. They're known for all these things, and they have influence so much over the young minds of America. We need them to be a voice for fatherhood. We need them to be ambassadors for fatherhood and encourage these young men that this is going to be the thing that brings you to fulfillment, not this material stuff that the world is trying to tell you to go after. That's not where the true happiness lies.
Alec, I have no doubt there are a bunch of new fathers or soon-to-be fathers out there, and they get nervous. Lots of men do. They don't have an instruction manual in front of them. Give us some wisdom. What's some advice for these guys?
Well, I would just say like ABCs is for me. It would say, adapt. You got to be willing to adapt. A lot of dads want their kids to do the same things that they did. And a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. So you have to be willing to adapt and get into the things that your kids are interested in. So for instance, my oldest son became interested in chess at a young age. I never played the game before in my life. I learned how to play it so I could play with him. Now the whole family plays it. We love it. So you have to be willing to adapt to the movies they like and show interest in what they're interested in. I would say B, bend, don't break. Be willing to bend the rules if your kids are going to give you a decent argument. Allow them a chance to explain their point of view. So if they want to do something that you were first against, bend, but don't break your morals. Don't break your values in doing so. So allow them to have a chance to change the rules once in a while. And then C, calm is contagious. And this comes from a lot of the military guys like yourself, guys that will say, things are going to go wrong, especially when you're a new dad. You're ready to leave the house. The kids are all dressed, and then he craps his pants. And then, he knocks the food bowl over at the dinner table. Things are going to happen that are going to make you want to just start to lose your stuff. But you got to try to remain calm, and then your wife will remain calm, and the kid will remain calm, and the kids will kind of follow that pattern. So try to stay calm, even though things start to get a little chaotic, especially in them early days.
Education. Your book talks about this. Education. This is something dads usually wash their hands of, right? Mom takes care of the homework with the kids. Talk to us about kids in education.
Scary time right now. My oldest is a senior in high school, so we're starting to look at this college world, and we're seeing 43 million Americans begging to have their college tuition paid off. So we're thinking, wait a minute, 43 million Americans paid for college and don't have a degree worth any money to pay back these loans. Why are we going to send our kid down the same path? Education is very bad in this country right now, particularly the public school. We got our kids in the Catholic school system. A lot of parents around the country are homeschooling now more than ever before, because of the corrupt indoctrination that's come through the pipeline of the school system. But education, what the kids don't get there is any kind of financial education. We're not teaching these kids what to do with a dollar, how to invest. So you got to help your kids get the right books to read, find the right people on social media to follow, to educate themselves into financial literacy. And that's something that's always missed. It's never taught, but it's something that we all are going to need. We're all going to know how to pay bills. We're all going to need to do things like that. So you have to get your kids some type of financial sense early on. Also, trade skills. Like I said, I've been a mechanic for my whole life, a railroad mechanic for 23 years. I teach my kids how to change flat tires, how to change and check their oil. These are basic necessity skills that fathers need to teach their sons and their daughters. I think it's vitally important. Some of this ABC stuff in school has gotten so warped, but giving them the basics that they're going to need for survival in life is far more important.
Alec, talk about phones. My sons have phones. We did not give them phones or smartphones early on. Eventually, we kind of gave in and gave them some phones just so they could stay in contact with us, but we tightly control those things because I understand how damaging it can be. How do you handle the phone situation in your house?
Very difficult, Jesse, and I know parents are struggling with this big time. My older guys, my 17 and 16-year-old, when I struggle with something in technology, I call on them. Hey, how do I beam this to the TV? I used to be the guy in the house that set up the VCRs. My old man would call me and say, hey, how do you set this thing up? And I used to be the guy that did that. Now I feel like a dummy because I'm like, hey, I don't know how this thing works. What is this? So they know far more about the technology than we do. And if anybody has seen Sound of Freedom out there, the movie that beat Indiana Jones and Dial 1 for wokeness, you talk to these guys that are dealing with sex traffickers. I had the guy recently on the show from Operation Underground Railroad. They're using the technology to get through these kids. That's their window into your kids' world. So if you're not monitoring who they're talking to, or at least asking them questions, there's no way to stop it. Because even if you don't give your kids a phone, if you don't give them access to the internet, their friends are going to have it. They're going to find somebody in a schoolyard who does. So they're forcing parents to have these kind of conversations earlier than you would like to with your kids. But social media is one thing that my kids, as far as I know, they don't have any social media accounts. I never had one until I started the podcast. I think social media is great for building businesses and making connections. I think it's horrible for what it's done to our culture, but you got to try to have these conversations and say, hey, this is what you're going to see, and start talking to them about it. But you got to watch who they're communicating with, because they think they're talking to somebody that's their age, or some girl that's sending them pictures and they're like, oh, wow, this girl likes me. But really, it's some 62-year-old dude in his house that's communicating with your kid. They do it through the Xbox system. They do it through PlayStation. They do it through these live chat rooms. And that's their window into these kids' world. So you got to try to educate yourself on the technology as best as you can to try to stay ahead of it. And it is not easy. It's much easier said than done.
You want to watch our special on George Washington? It's freaking awesome. Well, you can. All you have to do is become a First TV supporter. That gives you access to all of our specials on demand, and it's cake. All you have to go to is thefirsttv.com/support. Thefirsttv.com/support. Become a supporter. Enjoy learning about George Washington.